Thank you very much, Gabriel. It's a great honor for me to be here and to see all of you that have come all this way, some from very far away, to support the work that I am doing in Haiti. And I suppose I have and you might not think this, but in my view, I have a very privileged life because I have two wonderful families. I have my wonderful family here, and as Gabriel said, two wonderful parents and wonderful brothers and sisters, many that are here tonight. And God love them, they've got dragged into every Haiti thing all down these years without having any choice in the matter. And then in Haiti, I have a wonderful family as well. And they're the family that keeps me in Haiti all this time. And actually today is Mother's Day in Haiti, so this morning I woke up with videos and photographs of the children that I live with in Haiti. And I suppose I can understand that from anyone that hasn't been to Haiti, it's hard to imagine how somebody could leave a place as beautiful as Riva in Westport and go out to Haiti and stay there. But there's a bunch of people down the back, and they won't like me for saying this, but I'd like them to stand up, and they have all been in Haiti. So if you'd stand up so that I'm not the only one that everybody's looking at, there's a bunch of them down there, and they've been to Haiti, and if you got a chance to speak to any of them, good man, Dad, they would be very... And we have had the pleasure of working together for many years. In fact, Noelle down there is the one that brought me to Haiti in the first place. Because I met Noelle in Dublin, and she was in Haiti, and she said, Gena, she said, I'm working in the home in Haiti, and she said, there's a bunch of children with disabilities that have been abandoned, and I'm going to open a house for them, and will you come and work with me? So I went to work with Noelle, and we worked together for many, many years. Some people have asked me, why did I go to Haiti, and to tell people why I went to Haiti. Well, it's a long or a short story. I'll give you the edited version, but it's pretty much the same anyway. Those of us that grew up, I was born in '69, so we used to deliver the Far East and the Outlook magazines, and I'm sure many of you know all about them also. So, and apart from reading, there was a corner Putzi Ryan, I think his name was, and he couldn't spell properly. Yeah, it sounds kind of like it, yeah. Well, I remember being fascinated by the stories of the nuns and the priests and the stories that they were talking about a world that was far away. And I remember thinking at a very young age, maybe I could do something like that. I had no idea how to get there. But it was in my head from a young age. And then there were nuns that would come, and the missionary priests that would come and talk at Mass. And that it said something to me. I wasn't sure what at the time. So I remember thinking from a young age that that might be something that I would like to do. And in primary school, I remember we did a project in our last months, and myself and Marie Hall and Seamus Hogan, we did a project on third world poverty. And that was also saying something to me. It was interesting to find out. And Dad was a great man for saying one half of the world doesn't know how the other half is living. And he was also a great man for making you eat all your vegetables and your potatoes and not leaving a scrap, because there were poor black babies somewhere in Africa. And I think everybody grew up in that time. And I think that stuck with me. And then in secondary school, I hadn't a clue how. I had it in my head there was a path for Gena, but I didn't know how Gena was going to get on that path. So all the way through secondary school, and then everybody was deciding they were going off to college, and they were going to do this, and they were going to do that. And I was deciding I wasn't going to go to college, but I didn't know what I was going to do. And I remember clearly, I've been saying this the last 2 days to several people, we were shaking hay, and I remember I had a conversation with God. Now back then, I made the decision that there has to be a greater being, there has to be a God. And either you believe in it or you don't. And I said, well, I believe in a God. I'm not sure of the form, and I don't need to know, but I think there's something bigger than us out there. And I asked God, I said, how am I going to get on my path? Can you find a job for me? Of course, there was no bolt of lightning or anything. But that was my prayer, all the way to the end of secondary school. And then, believe it or not, I did go to college, and I got a degree in business. And at the end of the 4 years in Limerick, I remember being back on the brae shaking hay again. I'm sure I was a great shaker, wasn't I, Phil? I wasn't a great raker anyway, but I could shake. Anyway, I remember having the same conversation, and I remember being really frustrated. And I remember saying, 4 years later, I have this blessed degree, what am I going to do now? Because I had no idea. And at that time, everybody who was going to developing countries, they were doctors, they were teachers, they were engineers, they were nuns, they were priests. And I said, what am I, you know? It's a question I hate when people say, what are you? I love to say, oh, I'm just Gena. Because, sometimes we label people. And I was determined that wherever I went and wherever I did, I'd go and do it just as Gena. So, luckily for me, in my last term in Limerick, I met a girl and she was talking about an organisation in Dublin, and the name of the organisation was Victorious Christi. And Victorious Christi sent people to developing countries, people that don't necessarily have a qualification, they're not a doctor or a nurse, but they're people that want to help out. So I went to their opening day, and when I walked in the door in Dublin, I felt I'm on my path. I really felt it. It was a strange feeling, it was a wonderful feeling. And so while I was there doing their workshops, they said, well, you should do voluntary work in Ireland first to see if you're suited to this kind of a life. So I was lucky enough to work with the Dublin Silent Community. I remember Kay brought me up for the interview. And that was a huge thing for me, moving from Westport to Dublin. It was like the big smoke. And it was a challenge because we had 11 residents, 9 men and 2 women, and they had a range of issues from depression to schizophrenia to other conditions that I had never really experienced with, but it was one of the best experiences of my life. And it stuck to me, and it still stands to me because it was fantastic. While I was there, talking to a volunteer and talking about where we were going next, he said, well, I have a brother in Haiti, in an orphanage, and there's a volunteer coming home, and maybe you could meet her. So that was the start. I met Noel in Dublin, and I went to, that was in, I think, November of 1992, and in June of 1993, I landed out in Haiti. And I've never looked back since, and those of you that know me well will know that in all those years, there's never been a day when I regretted going to Haiti or where I wanted to be somewhere else. There may have been moments when you wish you could pop in for a cup of tea, you could wish you could be somewhere, but I've never looked back. It's been 30 years of so much joy and so much happiness, lots of tears, lots of frustrations, but it's been absolutely fantastic. And what's even more fantastic about it is that I have felt for all those 30 years that I was representing Caroliva, I was representing Kushlock, I was representing Westport, I was representing Mayo, because you have been with me all the way, people from this area, and I'd like, most sincerely, if you give yourselves a big bull of us for all those years of supporting me in Haiti. So I want to And when you're in Haiti, and when you have the possibility, as Gabriel said, to do good, there's nothing nicer than the feeling you get from doing good. And when you're doing good because so many people are supporting you, sometimes you feel a bit of a fraud because I wouldn't be able to do anything if you are not supporting me. And I say this to people always. We're all in this together, and we're all a chain, and we're all important. And when people put me up and say, I'm this or I'm wonderful, I like to turn it back because everybody can't be in Haiti. There has to be mothers and fathers and teachers and nurses and people that do all kinds of work because otherwise the world doesn't go around. And everybody is important in my eyes. And in Haiti we always say that to everybody, that everybody's job is important. And I think if you're lucky enough in life to do something that you love, it doesn't even feel like work. It feels like it's your passion, it's your vocation, it's whatever it is. So back in Haiti in 1993, we had a small house. We had 9 children that had been abandoned, and we were setting up our program for children with disabilities. So we went from there, developing therapy program, and thanks to help from Mayo, every now and then somebody would come to you and they need medicine, and you'd be able to buy medicine for them. We built houses, we put children to school. That was apart from the work that we were doing on a day-to-day basis. The years go by, the children have grown up. The hardest thing is when you lose the children because they are children, and that has been very difficult. I think they have been the most difficult times burying the kids that you have grown to love all those years. Many of them are adults now. Our program has expanded. In 2004, we decided to try and provide services so that the children would not be abandoned in the first place. In general, children that are abandoned in Haiti, especially these children, are abandoned not because the parents don't care for them, quite the opposite. You have to picture, Haiti is a country where the basic services are often denied to people. So, healthcare, social welfare, running water, electricity, medication, wheelchairs, they don't exist for most people. Employment, people are living in extreme conditions of poverty. So if you have one child who is disabled, and you have 5 or 6 or 7 other children that you have to try and feed, this one child makes life even more difficult for you. Because what tends to happen is these children are left in a room while the parents try and go out and get some work. And getting work in Haiti is another challenge. There must be at least 70% of the population unemployed. So for that mother to try and raise those kids, it's really, really challenging. A lot of the time, she may be out trying, she might buy, she could buy a box of soap and she'd be selling soap individually, 1 bar at a time. She could be buying second-hand clothes and she's trying to sell them. She could be buying spaghetti and she'd make up spaghetti and sauce and sell the plate of food every day. Anything they can do to sell. Could be selling water, anything at all. And the people of Haiti are so resilient. Somebody we were talking about it recently, that the Irish women during the famine times and after the famine times and up to today would find themselves relating to the Haitian women because they are so resilient and they have to work so hard. Now that's not to say that the men would have to work hard, but the women seem to take the most of the responsibility. So in often cases, these children are abandoned and left in hospitals. And then when they're left in hospitals, there are very few services available to them. So in 2004, we opened a rehab center trying to provide services for the children and the families so they don't have to abandon them. And we opened a special needs school, and that's going very well. And we have, at the moment, in our part of the program, we have about 150 people employed. And we started off all those years ago with maybe 4 employees. So we've come a long way, and we have a long way to go. And we have expanded our family in recent months, because unfortunately, in the last 2 years in Haiti, crime has taken over around Port-au-Prince, kidnappings, gangs, lots of violence. Countless people had to leave their homes. Their homes have been burned, taken over by them. You can't imagine it. You can't imagine what it's like for the ordinary Haitian person coming to work every day. Those of you who are going to work tomorrow, when you get up and you go in the car, you can't imagine what a privilege it is that there's nobody blocking your road with burning tires or gunshots, or that you don't have to imagine being kidnapped, because that's the reality for our friends and the people that we work with. Finesse is a woman that has worked with me since 1993. She's been with us since the beginning. She has 4 kids, and in July of last year, the area where she lives was taken over by gangs. And she had to leave her family, leave her home that she has built and worked hard putting together all these years. And luckily for her, we had a house that we were able to have her live in with her family. If that wasn't bad enough, maybe 2 months ago, the bandits came broke into her house and took absolutely everything that she spent 30 years of her life working for. And yet she comes to work every day, despite all of that. And she's just one. There are so many more, and they're not so lucky that they don't, because some of them are staying in parks, some of them are staying with friends, and many, many people are leaving the country. And the thing we have to remember when we talk about Haiti or any other country that seems to be far raised, it could be any of us. We didn't know where we were going to be born. We were born where we were born. And sometimes there's a tendency that people think that poor people are used to being poor, or that people in countries where there's war, they're used to that. You never get used to it. You never get used to listening to guns. You never get used to going through all this stress to get to work every day and then having to do it again going back in the evening. So support like this is really, really important because the people that we work with in Haiti, they feel that people care about them. And when I told them I was coming to this function tonight, they said, please tell everybody thanks. Tell everybody thanks because they think about us. Tell everybody thanks because they support us. The bank account in Westport had some money recently, and very kindly sent it over to me, and we used it to give a bonus to our employees. It was a 50 worked out as a $50 bonus for every day. Every single employee at that time, there were 100 of them, they said, Gena, please tell everybody thanks for that money. And that money meant that they could buy food for their kids, that they could pay school bills, that they could do all the things for their children. So never feel that your contribution is not needed, never feel that it's not appreciated, and never feel that anything you give will ever be too small, because all the small monies add up and it becomes a lot of money. And if we have done so much work in 30 years, it's because we have done so much work in 30 years. And I really, really hope that you feel a part of it, because we definitely feel that you're very much a part of it in Haiti. And somebody asked me, and I went on too long. Somebody asked me how I feel about my own safety in Haiti. Because obviously when you're hearing the news, it's not only worry. I worry about the people there when I'm here. My own personal way of looking at life is you have to do what you have to do. If you were to worry about everything, you wouldn't get out of your house in the morning, you'd stay, and then you couldn't do anything. And if I didn't feel that I could do what I do in Haiti, then why would I even be in Haiti? So, do I worry? From time to time I worry. Am I aware of the dangers? Yes, I'm aware of the dangers. Does it stop me doing what I'm doing? No, it doesn't. Does it make me more careful? Yes, it makes me more careful. And if something bad happens, this is where the faith comes into it. Bad things happen to people all the time. So if bad things happen, my faith tells me that I'll be able to deal with it one way or the other. I've had some experiences that are hairy enough, and I was given the strength to get through it, and I feel the same thing. So someone else asked me, was I going to be coming home anytime soon? I said, how could I ever leave my family in Haiti? My kids were getting old together, with the help of God, we'll have many more years together. But no, I don't have any plans to come home. I plan to keep going for as long as I can keep going, and as long as they won't kick me out. And with the help of God, I have your support also. So thank you most sincerely. And thank you to all the people that organized this event. The best thing about these events is when I don't have anything to do with organizing them, I just have to turn up. So thank you very, very, very much. And thank you to the hospitals and thank you to everyone.
One and only Gena Heraty, ladies and gentlemen.